All right, and with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Timothy Binder. He's a legend here at the University of Science and Philosophy. Legend in many ways, the scientific work he's done over the years with the university. Dr. Binder is a graduate of Western States Chiropractic College, Portland, Oregon, 1972, National College of Naturopathic Medicine, Portland, Oregon, 1973, the North American College of Acupuncture, Vancouver, 74. Dr. Binder has been in private practice for 45 years, specializing in being a master jack treating all conditions with authentic medicine. From 1988 through 1995, while maintaining a part-time practice in both. From 1988 through to 1995, he maintained a practice in both Hamilton, Montana, and Boulder, Colorado. Dr. Binder assumed leadership of the University of Science and Philosophy as president and CEO, located at the time at Swannanoa Palace in Waynesboro, Virginia. The USP was founded by Dr. Walter and Leo Russell in the 40s. During his lifetime, Dr. Russell was known as the man who tapped the secrets of the universe, the modern Leonardo, and the most versatile man in America. Dr. Binder was greatly influenced by these writings and enjoyed his tenure as president CEO for those 7 years. During these times, he also worked for 3 years doing new science research into new energy sources and transmutation of elements, especially radioactive elements. During those times, Dr. Binder published for the USP a magazine titled Fulcrum, which all but 3 are now available up at philosophy.org. If you click on articles, they're all free to download, minus 3, which will be up hopefully by the end of the year. He and his research team, consisting of Toby Groats, Ron Kovac, along with help from the USP staff, notably Chester Hatstadt, Shirley Calkins-Smith, and others, published these results in the many talks given by Dr. Binder and the research team at many major scientific conferences, such as the American Chemical Society in Atlanta, Georgia, the many international symposiums on new energy in Denver, Colorado, and international symposiums on low energy transformations at Texas A&M in College Station, Texas. The title, Low Energy Transformations, is a euphemism for transmutations. Dr. Binder has authored the following books, among others: Position Technique, The Science of Centering, Big Medicine, Health Defense Handbook for War Defense, Biochemical Nuke, and Everyday Infections, and of course, In the Wave Lies the Secret of Creation. The latter book is a compilation of Dr. Russell's science into one volume. There are numerous other books and booklets Dr. Binder has published, mostly concerning the philosophy and useful practice of authentic medicine, natural alternative medicines. You can visit his website at drtimbinder.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed privilege and honor to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Timothy A. Binder.
Thank you. Well, I'm so pleased to see so many old faces that I remember and a whole bunch of new ones that I have never met before today. And I'm going to be a Dutch uncle for you today. The title of my talk is Consciousness is the Key to the Dawn of a New Age in Human Relations and Technology. And much of what I'm going to tell you, it's come from my own journey. We all have our journeys, and they differ, and yet they're all the same. And I truly believe that what I'm telling you does apply to you just as well as it does to me, though you might use other words to describe it. And I'm going to point out that the Russells use their own inimitable and fabulous way of describing the same thing and much more. And I am so grateful to having had the Russells as mentors in my life. I've been, all the very important things in my life, they were all people and they still are. And I look at everybody I've ever met has been an important person to me, and some really stand out. And I had the distinct pleasure to me to actually know Leo Russell, I met her first in, I believe it was 1974. I wanted to take my children, who were very young at the time, grade school age, and take them to meet who I thought were the living, real illumined people on the planet. And I took them to meet, I knew Herman Ihara and Michio Kushi, West Coast and East Coast macrobiotic leaders. I'd corresponded with George Osava before he passed on. And also Hamid Bey, the Coptic priest from Egypt. And it was interesting when I first came to Swannanoa that Leo had their books, a book on the forest being destroyed and the oxygen being destroyed as a consequence of that, and Hamid Bey's book. She knew Hamid Bey, and they had corresponded, and he was using atomic suicide teaching his students. He's a Coptic priest from Egypt, and Leo. So we traveled here to meet Leo in '74, and boy, what a whirlwind experience that was. There's so many interesting stories I could tell you that she had related to me, and one of them, the first day that I was here, she said, Dr. Russell told me that we're from Sirius. And of course they acknowledged their birth on this planet as human beings. And she says, you are too. And I thought, are you serious? She was, and I thought, I wonder if she talks this way to everybody. She always did. She talked, I'm sure she talked to all of you that had the opportunity to meet her in a very similar, if not the same way. So I'm so grateful to Walter and Leo Russell, the founders of the University of Science and Philosophy, who were a tremendous influence on my life. And we'll go on to the 5 laws of success. I look at the key to the dawn of the new age. Walter and Leo, they did their job, they've passed on. And it's us, all of us, me, you, everybody that has studied the message, and everybody that needs to study the message, which is virtually everyone, and people that haven't studied it, that have had their own sources of inspiration as well. And it will be dependent, in my opinion, on the level of consciousness of humanity to initiate that dawn. And the dawn of a new age in human relations, at the end of that little booklet, which is an excellent booklet to read, Dr. Russell and Leo both said, messengers sometimes can get, I'll use my own words, burned out, and temporarily maybe discouraged. I don't think they used that word. And that the solution, of course, was to go into the light and commune with God and come out re-inspired to help bring your message to the world. You all have a message. I consider that there's 3 important questions. Who am I? Why am I? And where am I? And really, if you answer one, you will answer all 3. And then in our life, the secret to living, they gave us all kinds of them. And the 5 laws of success are everything you need to know is right in there. And for me, I tell myself I need to listen to my conscience. We all have a conscience, and what is conscience? I look at it as shining the light of my intelligence upon what to do and what not to do. The old Hindu saying, yama, niyama. Do it, don't do it. And it's pretty easy if you are honest with yourself. And then respond with my abilities to do my duty. We all have abilities, everyone does, and we all have a duty to listen, shine the light of intelligence on our reason, and make the appropriate choices. And I'm going to talk about what I found to be roadblocks in myself that I think apply to everybody. And I'm going to use the Russell teachings to say they recognize the same thing. So the 5 laws of success, and I think that to give you a little heads up, the basic roadblock for all of us, you may call it by different names, it's self-deception. Turning away from reality. And when we turn away from reality, we become stupider. So let's look at the 5 laws of success. Humility. The personal ego must be suppressed and replaced with a universal ego. One must not be the part, one must be the whole. The I must be forgotten. I had it, all men have it, and all pass through that stage. I don't know how long it's going to take me to pass through it. And I also look at when I do pass through it, my guess is I will still retain my individuality, and yet I will recognize that I am one with everything. And everything, everybody that we deal with, everything we do is a relationship. And the ultimate meaning of any relationship is identity. So I am you, you are me. The old Hindu saying, Tam Tavat Asi, I am that, you are that, and that is me. It's literally true. And that's what the Russells were saying in all of their teachings too. So the second, reverence. If you always look toward the visible product, you merely look toward the effects of cause. If you look reverently inward direction, in the inward direction toward your inner self, you will be amazed at what you will find. And this can be seen in all the 5 laws. I look at it as when you're doing your duty, when you're responding with your abilities, to be unattached to the results is to look at beyond the visible product. You see, you look toward the effects of cause when you're looking at the product. If you look inward, reverently in the inward direction toward your inner self, you have no more attachment to the results. You just know you do what you do, and you do it to the best of your ability. You respond with your abilities to do your duty. And that, wow, that makes it easy. Because it frees you up from worrying about the effects. You know what they have to be. So the third one, inspiration. Flashes of inspiration come only to those who plug into the universe and become harmonious with its rhythms by communion with it. Inspiration and intuition are the language of light through which men and God intercommunicate. And they always pointed out that we need to have time alone. And if you look at our modern age now, how many people have time alone? They're glued to their cell phones. They're glued to their computers. They're constantly in this electronic world of input to them through their hearing and their vision, through their senses, through their sense body. They spend very little time alone. Walter said, you need to be out in nature. Open the door. Go out and walk. Get away from all of the sense impressions that are constantly calling you. And as a physician, I could tell you, I think it's very important to balance the mechanism you're in, the physical body. And I could talk to you for hours and hours about that. But it's very important what the food you eat, the water you drink, the thoughts you think. And I use the example of if you want to meditate, if you're sitting in meditation, I come up and start twisting on your your skin somewhere pinching you, you're going to find it a little difficult to meditate. And it's the same way if your body is really out of whack. And I know about that. I had a extreme kyphoscoliosis. My back was all bent and twisted, and the medics told me, you're going to have to learn to live with it. You'll have a desk job all your life. And I've carried hod for bricklayers and done hard rock mining. There's nothing worse than that. And because I gave up on them. And and I've imbalanced my body through poor food. I didn't know about it until I became older. Luckily, what I did eat when I was young was a whole lot better than it is now if you're young. This sad standard American diet. I've drank prodigious amounts of alcohol. And you know, in the home study course, the Russells talked about a man who, he was a tremendous orator, but he could only do it when he was really drunk. And then when he was sober, you know, the darkness descended upon him. So they were saying the same thing there that I'm saying. You must balance the physical mechanism. And then once you can take a quart of whiskey and drink it down and change it into water, like Jesus changed the water into wine, change it the other way around. You can eat and drink anything you want, but until then you're under certain laws and you must obey them to your benefit and ignore them at your peril. So when you can go within, that's where you find the inspiration. You won't find it in the cell phone and the movies and etc. Being alone. And deep purpose. You can become a great creator or a little one, as the intensity of your desire is little or great. So, ask yourself, what is my purpose? We all have one. Everybody does. And you start with whatever your goal, whatever your purpose in life is, and it can grow from there. I know in my own case, when I was a little bitty kid, I first said, I'm going to be a doctor. I really didn't know a whole lot what that meant. But unfortunately, I was going to the doctor when I was very young. Various problems, and I think every kid has. And then when I discovered the natural healing arts, I was amazed, and in between, I thought, well, I'll be an engineer, maybe. I was going to be a language teacher. I studied 4 languages in high school, which was unheard of in the 50s. I'm 75 years old now. And, but we all have a purpose. And I see now, of course, when I was a little kid, said I was going to be a physician. That was a deep purpose. And studying the Russell work has been of immeasurable help to me in being a physician. It's helped me understand people better and also understand real medicine. Leo was a big fan of natural healing, and Dr. Russell somewhat too, but not like Leo. She really was and influenced him. He was so healthy. And back then, things weren't so bad for people in that realm. When he grew up, oh, it was way different. The food supply was so much different. The land still had some fertility in the soil. The water wasn't as polluted. We didn't even have radioactivity in our atmosphere. So, what is your purpose? Search for it, go inward if you don't already know it. Enjoy. He or she who cultivates that quiet, unobtrusive ecstasy of inner joyousness can scale any heights and be a leader in his or her field, no matter what that field is. And that's absolutely true. And when you've really been an humble person and you approach your work with reverence and you have deep purpose, you will find that joy in your work when you know you're responding with your abilities to do your duty. So they told us this was the fifth of the 5 laws of success. So we were each given a block of marble when we begin a lifetime and the tools with which to shape it into sculpture. We can drag it behind us untouched. And so you can look all around you at the world and see all kinds of people dragging this big block of stone behind them, and it's just getting chipped here and there. They're not really sculpting it that much, a little bit, because even dragging it, they are. So we can drag it behind us untouched. We can pound it as gravel. Yeah, you can make gravel out of it. We can shape it into glory. Examples from every other life are left for us to see. Life works finished and unfinished, guiding and warning. And the Russells left us their work, which is a magnificent work, and that's where I feel I've been blessed to have been exposed to it, as they were mentors, they were guideposts to help me understand my purpose. And near the end, our sculpture is nearly finished. And I figure at 75, I'm getting there. And we can smooth and polish what we started years before. We can make our greatest progress then, but to do it, we must see past the appearances of age. Leah always said, if people asked her how old she was, she says, I'm ageless. And she definitely was. And, but I look now at my 3/4 century mark, there are so many blessings as I have aged and been able to digest the experiences, what I would call the wonderful good ones and what I would call, oh, those were pretty rough lessons that I had to learn. And they're also wonderful too. I look at life as a school. And for me, and I think most of us, it's a reform school. And we're here to learn our lessons. And we understand our lessons through rewards and punishment. And once we, the rewards come in joy. They come in what we might call good luck, which I'd say it's no such thing. Everything that we do has a price. Every thought we think determines the actions we take in the life we see, and we pay a price for whatever we think, and we get a reward. And I'd say our punishments, sorrow, anger, which would be a sort of a type of fear too. All of these what we'd call bad luck, bad things happening to us, if we see the lesson in it, it's a reward. So that's where I would say, even when I see what we would normally call the bad things in my past, they're not bad anymore. And the only way I recognized a long, long time ago, there is one way to change your past, and it will happen automatically. But if you're aware of it, you can make it deeper and broader and quicker. And that's is how you view your past. Let's say you had a very terrible home life as a young child. We all do. Every child has some abuse of some type. In the culture, we're all taught to lie. Every child. Hey, Santa Claus is real. The Tooth Fairy is real. Easter Bunny is real. You could go on and on. So we learn at a very early age to lie, which is deception by the older adults on us. I think that's a mistake to do that to a child. And everywhere we're taught to lie. And this whole world is full of liars, and that's us. Biblically speaking, saying the fallen angels, I say, look in the mirror. Why do you think you're here? And we are angels in development because we were the fallen angels. And we generate our own environment. we get exactly what we deserve. They said it right there. How can we resent the life we have created for ourselves? Who's to blame? Who's to credit but us? Either way, the credit or the blame goes on you, goes on me, goes on us individuals. And of course our culture and environment does. But we were believing in reincarnation. I believe the environment we're in is the one we needed to learn our lessons. So it is us again. Can't blame it on the environment. How can we resent the life we have created for ourselves? Who's to blame? Who's to credit but us? Who can change it anytime we wish but us? Ah, great, wonderful. I've always told people, I always figure anything that happens to me, I had at least some part in creating it, because they wouldn't understand if I said, well, I created it, even though I might not have been aware of it. And it was for my own good, whether I know it or not. And if I step off a truck and get hit by a Mack truck, hey, there was a lesson there for me to learn. Maybe it's look both ways before you cross the street. And and I say, you may disagree with it, but I figure it's a good philosophy because it puts me in the driver's seat. I'm not a victim. I create my life. You create your life. And we all can create the dawn of the new age in human relations and in technology. And I believe the technology will come when humanity is ready for it, is one way of putting it, deserves it, and can handle it properly. So consciousness is the key to the transformation. So knowledge is cosmic. It does not evolve or unfold in man. Man unfolds to an awareness of it. He gradually discovers it. In other words, and all the others were suggesting this to us too, all those 5 laws of success, and you can see it throughout their work. All knowledge is eternal and infinite. It's always been here, and it's here within you and me. It's within us if we will go beyond sensing to real inner knowing. And Walter demonstrated this so masterfully. He had no education, I believe it was beyond the 5th grade, other than an art education. And look what he did. My God, he was architect designing buildings, the Bronx Freeway, Hotel des Artistes, all the magnificent paintings and sculptings he did, all the magnificent writings they both did, and all the magnificent inner knowing that they expressed in their writings to us to become the wonderful mentors that they've been to us all. And to those of you that are just budding students, they will become incredible mentors to you if you persist and study their message. And thoughts are forces. Like builds like attracts like. For one to govern his thinking, then, is to determine his life. And I would say, if you really want to govern your thinking, you must end self-deception. It's crucial. You may want to use another word, because I'm going to use a harder word even. You must stop lying to yourself. And this is where I'm talking like a Dutch uncle, as the old saying used to be. And I believe we all lie to ourselves. And when you lie, you turn away from the truth, so you don't see reality. And that opens the door to deceiving others, because you've turned away from the truth. And to the extent that a person does that, the breadth and depth and time of it, you turn farther and farther from the truth. And I've had people in, say, political discussions, and they'll say, oh my God, our world leaders, all of them, they're crazy. Look at what they're doing. They're insane. I say, yes, they are. Because the ultimate outcome of totally turning away from the truth over and over and over is you become mad. And I'd say whether you are a deist or an atheist, I could say the appellation applied to a person who has turned so far away from the truth that what they're doing is anti-human. The appellation demonic applies, whether you're an atheist or a deist. And we can see so many examples of that in our world. The killings, the wars, the destruction, the dissension. And Leo emphasized, I remember talking to her privately, and she said, well, we were talking about the world and our world leaders, and she says, well, Tim, it's not just them, it's all of us. She says, it's the common person too. And she wanted and did deliver a message to reach all of us. And it's probably even easier for us common people to get the message than a lot of the leaders, because they've turned so far away. So, you know, facing yourself squarely and saying, I want to know. I don't want to fool myself. That's a nice word for saying I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to fool myself. I don't want to turn away from reality. I don't want to turn away from the truth. I don't want to turn away from my own inner knowing. And I know, talking to Richard Delaney last night, he said something very, very interesting, which was a much kinder, loving way, maybe than the words I'm using. Listen to your heart. And a person that truly loves themselves, would they do what I'm contemplating thinking about, which will determine an action. And if you can say your heart says, yes, I love myself, and then I can do this action, that's a good guidepost. And if you don't love yourself, then you have to ask yourself, why not? Why don't I? And discover it. In the ancient Hawaiians, they had a philosophy called the huna. And they said, which is in sync with the Russells. There was a middle self, a low self, and a high self. Middle self is our consciousness, our conscious self. We have an unconscious self. We know we enter the world of dreams when we go to sleep at night, for at least a little bit. And God knows what we do, and if we go inward enough, we know what we do when we go to sleep, and we're not even what we call dreaming. And we have the low self we call our subconscious or unconscious. And I think there's a lot more detail could be said here, but I'm just going to keep it to this. And then there's the high self, which would be their word for God, our connection with Source, our oneness with the universal one. And they looked at any illness, and as a physician, I'd say, yes, there's always a mental emotional state. And they looked at it as if you had an illness, and you could say the ills of society too, same thing. You've harmed somebody. And look at our society, all the ills of society. It's because, as the Russells pointed out, we're treating the society as a whole hasn't understood love, the real meaning of love, and that when you hurt another person, you hurt yourself, because you are one. So they said to the sick person, who have you hurt? You could hurt yourself too. It may be yourself, not another person. And I've worked with patients this way, that they could take it, they wanted it. So I can't with everybody. And suggested to them that they go out and do, they told me what they figured they did wrong and they couldn't forgive themselves. I said, well then, let's have you go out and do some service to others. Because ultimately, that's when we really get to understand and love ourselves. That's what we're doing all the time. We're helping other people, we're serving other people, and we always do. It's just, do we do it lovingly or begrudgingly? And that totally transformed their lives. So the kahuna, the priest of the huna, would have the person go and make amends to that person if they're still alive, and if not, they believe spirit world. You do as best you can to contact the person in the spirit world and ask for forgiveness, see what you did wrong. And like Jesus said, take up to the guy that he healed, the leper, I think it was, he said, take up your bed, go away and walk and sin no more. Sin means miss the mark, which means you didn't see reality clearly. And they looked at too that the middle self can give messages to our low self, our subconscious, that will take it to our high self to create miracles in our life. And like a child that's afraid to see its parent when it's done wrong. Oh, I know I did wrong. I don't want to see mommy and daddy. They're going to find out. When we have made a wrong, whether it's to ourselves or others, we cut off our contact with God. And it all starts with self-deception, lying to ourselves with that hard word, but it's true. And our thoughts and imaginations are the only real limits to our possibilities. So what we think, I'd say that's active thinking. We focus, concentrate on this is what I want to do. And imaginations can be passive, and they can have a lot of power, and they can help us focus on the correct thoughts, the balanced thoughts, and our concentration and desire to manifest good thoughts will help make our passive imaginations in the right vein too. And they both work together to change us. They are the only real limits to our possibilities. No man or woman's success or health will ever reach beyond his own or her own confidence. As a rule, we erect our own barriers. And I would say they all come from self-deception. So first, know thyself, and get with all thy getting, get knowledge and self-knowledge. Wrong button there. Nikola Tesla, he said what I've said in his own inimitable way. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. I want to be clear. Then I can really think deep and broad and intensely. One must be sane to think clearly. Gee, you can't turn from the truth and think clearly. But one can think deeply and be quite insane. All the trouble that we see in the world, all the trouble that we might generate in our own lives, we're thinking deeply if we're creating trouble in our lives, and the world is, because we've lied to ourselves and have turned from the truth and are quite insane. So let's be sane. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's much easier. Character, and that's what determines our character. The degree that we're willing to see ourselves, truly. Hear thou me, I say that man writes his own record of his thinking and his acting. Thought determines your actions. In his own immortal soul. He writes his record in his soul. We all do. It's all there. And that which man or woman writes there will be repeated in the pattern seed of the reborning of that man unto eternity. Now, I mentioned that our past deeds, our past thoughts, our past experiences, we can change them as we see them differently. And once I understand them differently, they're different. They're literally, truly different. And what helps determine that is all of our thinking is, I could say education, and in the broad sense, it's a culture you're born into, the religion you're brought up in, the associations you've had, and your experience, whatever work you do, all of your experiences, and your age. And that's one of the blessings of aging, is as you age, automatically, it will happen, but if you become aware of it and really turn inward and say, I want to know, I want to see clearly, it can happen quicker. But as you age, those of you, everybody here has aged enough to see, oh yeah, I look at my past differently now. So it's different. So the electrifying power of man-woman balance. And we could say, because in the home study course, the Russells, you know, towards the end, they said, well, we've been talking about electricity up to this point, because if I started talking about light and didn't use the common terminology of the science of today, you'd never get it. You'd never follow me. We could say the illuminating power of man-woman balance. Male illumination, female illumination, the electrifying power of male electricity, female electricity, I like electricity too, is what that balance, and Leo really brought this through big time, world peace through world balance and male-female balance. And we all have male-female aspects within our own being. And we need to recognize, as a male, I need to recognize and appreciate my feminine characteristics, and as a female, you need to recognize your masculine characteristics and become as balanced as you can in both. And I'm very thankful I have a lot of feminine characteristics. And I think they're empowering. I know they are. Sure has helped me with my relationships. And the principle of love is desire to give. The law of love is rhythmic, balanced interchange between all givings and regivings. And in the book, my book, In the Wave Lies the Secret of Creation, I gave an introduction to language mechanics, because I believe it will help people understand the Russells a whole lot easier if you really get it. And I compressed a whole bunch of material into a little space, which I got from Scudder Clyce, who published a book titled Universe, 1921, when he was in Boston. And I think it's interesting, the Universal one, published in Boston, and Russell may have been there at the time too. Very similar title in 1926, I believe it was. And that's where I got language mechanics. And it's Walter and Leo Russell, they just weren't explicitly aware of it. And language functions as a machine. You can say everything functions as a machine except our inner knowing, our oneness with the Creator, the Source. But this transient, ever-changing world, it's a machine. And our bodies, and Walter said it, our bodies they're literally machines that we're functioning through. And language, whatever language you're speaking, is a machine, and it's just like a lever. And I use the lever, which they used as a basic model for the universe. There's 3 types of words, just as there are 3 parts to a lever. The whole lever itself is like a one expression. It doesn't express the whole lever, the parts, which are the male-female extensions. And it doesn't express the fulcrum, which divides the one lever into male-female extensions. And the secret of light, or secret of living in the light, would be you're on the seesaw of the lever in all of your interchanging with people, and recognizing that the ultimate meaning of any relationship is identity. Let's say you're on a teeter-totter with someone. I give to you, you give to me, the teeter-totter goes up and down. If I say, hey, I want all the extension of the lever, the game ends. And if I give all the extension of the lever to you, the game ends. So that's the law of rhythmic balanced interchange. I give to you, you give to me, and the game goes on and on. We can dance, we can play, we can have a wonderful time. It's like then the world, we all can be in our studio. When I'm in this studio, I feel like Alice in Wonderland. And our lives and our work, that's our studio. Whether you're an artiste or a laborer, a teacher, whatever work you do, whatever skills you have, that's your studio. And whatever the work that's been presented to you, you should do it as reverently, with as much humbleness and deep purpose that you possibly can. Apply the 5 laws to whatever you're doing, and if you want to go on, because you will, if you want to, and do some other work, if you do whatever work is in front of you at the day, pay attention to the day and let tomorrow take care of itself, you can still have a purpose that will go beyond what you're doing into something else. But you want to make sure everything that you're doing, if you're really intelligent, I think, hey, this is a big school. Even if it's a reform school, I'm going to have fun here. So it's like Alice in Wonderland in your studio of life. So again, the thought that I'm leaving you with is that the dawn of the new age is up to you and everybody else. You know, we don't have to get a I am God complex. We are God, but we're a part. And the more we recognize our inner oneness with the universal one, the more power, because all power is extended to us from the Creator. We don't do anything on our own. And I always tell my patients, I say, hey, do you know how to digest your food? No, you don't. But your unconscious body mind that the Creator created, it does. And you are in charge of that body, and you're in charge of your life that will be determined, as you've seen the Russells say over and over, by the quality of your thinking. So I think I can end with that and take any questions from the audience. I could go on and on, but I want to give you all to have questions too. Jerry, is it?
Hi, I'm Kenny.
Kenny.
Thank you. What was one of the first times where you put the 5 laws of success into action and saw yourself unfold into success?
Well, I think we all do it more or less unconsciously, so I'm trying to remember when it was really conscious. And I had other mentors. C. Miles Martin, he knew Walter Russell, he knew Hamid Bey, and this man and his wife were like second parents to me. And I always said when I was younger, I'll be dead by the time I'm 40. I was living a really hard life. I started drinking in grade school. So I'm self-revelation here. Like I said, I'm not talking from an ivory tower. I don't drink now at all. And it's no problem. I can be around people drinking. It doesn't bother me a bit. And if I wanted to drink, I would. I just don't want to. And so I thought I'd be dead by 40. And then I met Martin. I had this horrible back condition. like I said, it was like a hunchback. It was a kyphoscoliosis stuck way out on this side. I had my ribs had fused to my vertebra in 3 places. X-ray showed like big silver dollar masses of calcium. My sacrum stuck out on me, the 2 hip bones. There's the sacrum, which is the sacred, it's the center of gravity of your whole body. Was a transitional type of the lumbosacral joint, kind of like a kid's sacrum, never developed fully. So it was unstable, that's what caused, well, that's not cause, a physical cause. And it used to stick out on me like a tail, and my friends, I jokingly say, my friends always said, we knew you were the devil. And I've changed it. Because the medics wouldn't, they said, well, nothing you can do about it, you're just gonna have to live with it. And within about 2 weeks, they put me in a brace from here to here, and I threw it away. And lots of times people say, well, you look stiff, and I say, that's because you're used to seeing people this way. And if you take my centering class, you'll see I'm very flexible. I'll be doing things, I don't care what your age is, most people can't do. Because the only way you can have a straight, erect spine is to have a very flexible one. When you're in 3 braces, you got tension. Anyhow, the Martins, and I remember Mom Martin, as I called her, we'd have discussions, and she brought up humble, and look at me and say, are you really humble? So I started thinking about, what's it mean to be humble? Well, I really got more of an answer to it through the Russells and, you know, the 5 laws of success. And being really humble, so I can't say I'm giving you what I can think of as some of the earliest experiences, but any particular, I was doing something, I can't think of anything that way, but was realizing that everything that I do is extended, the power is extended to me from God. It's not within myself, but it's up to me to choose what I'll do and open myself to. I can say I'm going to reach out to. I'm going to reach out to the power that the Creator extends to me. I will accept it and use it wisely. And that's humility. Did that give you some type of a...
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Binder. That was great.
Anybody else?
I guess I'll ask a question. It's really a simple one. I just can't remember the 5th tenet.
Joy.
I have a question, please. When did you first meet Leo? Was it, did you set out to?
I first met Leo, I believe it was 1974, and I think I earlier mentioned that I took my little children, Sharon and I, the mother of our children, we all came here to the palace to meet Leo. And that was the beginning of many, many visits here. And there was a newspaper in a rag in Washington that shortly after Leo died put out a stupid lying article called The Wizards of Id. And there was one lie after another in there, and one of them, which I remember, John Denver was a personal friend and patient of mine for 20 years. He wrote some of his songs up in my dome in Montana. And he knew Bucky Fuller real well. I did meet him when I was 1960, when I was a freshman in college. A guy I knew there, a dorm chief, had studied and lived with Bucky at Southern Illinois University, and so he arranged when he was giving a lecture in Denver that I could meet him, and he'd actually spend a little time with me, which I'm grateful for. I wanted to build geodesic domes when I was in high school. Anyhow, so I wanted my kids to meet the most illumined people that I knew on the planet at the time. And of course, Leo was one of them, Hamid Bey, the Coptic priest from Egypt. which I mentioned, you know, I saw Leo had his book here. And then I found out through her, yeah, they were corresponding. Hamid Bey was using atomic suicide in teaching his students. So it was 1974, and it just went on, and then back to John Denver. The purpose of bringing that up was in that article. They said, John Denver had never been here. And of course, I arranged the meeting, and I set it up so that Sharon and the kids and I again were here. And this must have been it was a few years before she transitioned out. And he landed the helicopter that he got from Washington and flew up right in front of the palace, and went in and spent time with Leo, and we have pictures in the archives of John and her together. So the whole article was just full of lie after lie. More questions?
Wondering, do you believe that radioactivity can be voided out, that there would be a technology that could void out radioactivity?
Well, that was one of the things when I was involved with. We were like Walter Russell was the first science research, we were the second, and now the new team is the third. And we were looking at transmutation of radioactive waste. So in one sense, it depends on how and what you mean. And we did have a process that we did. It was difficult to repeat, but I think it was about a week, we took thorium, which has a half-life of millions of years, meaning it take several million years before, if you had a pound of it, you'd have a half a pound. And we reduced the radioactivity 25%. So that's unbelievable because it doesn't happen naturally. So we were looking at doing that, and I believe that can be done. And I've looked at it from all kinds of angles, and we know there are bacteria that will degrade it quickly. They eat it, transmute it. And of more practical value to all of us individuals is quit eating it, quit drinking it. You can't help but breathe it. And support anybody that wants to bring the alternative energy out, and anybody that says we must shut down the nuke plants. As the Russells pointed out, right now we got about 500 nuke plants around the world, and if we have a solar flare or whatever and the grid goes down, poof, they all blow up. And you know, in atomic suicide, they said it could be, we're done. But then you can eat things like miso and as pure seaweed as you can in your diet every day. That helps chelate it and pull it out. I guess they told me I'm done. Thank you.